it's that time of the day when we take a look at some of the other stories making headlines around the world. Joining me for that task is the Ghanaian Politico. Politico, that's good, isn't it? Joseph Danquah. Morning, Joseph. How are you this morning?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Good, good. Let's start off with This Day, Nigeria's leading newspaper. A story about a kidnapped clergyman. He's been telling his tales, hasn't he?
Yes, yeah, he was kidnapped sometime back on the June the 9th, and apparently when he was kidnapped, he was given frogs as lunch. And, you know, he said apparently they were demanding a ransom from the Catholic Church. And this has been, you know, these kidnappings and abductions had been taking place some time back in Nigeria, in the oil-rich area of the Delta region where people want to kidnapping for ransom. And I hope this sort of thing has not reared up its ugly head again, because, you know, there was a spate of kidnaps where people were basically desperate to survive and they needed all sorts of means to make money. And this is one of the avenues.
I mean, he seems to have been fairly well looked after. He was fed a lot of carbohydrates, he said, and frogs to give him a bit of protein, which doesn't sound very nice. But, you know, at least it was food.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Do we know where he was kept?
Yes, apparently in a disused school, an abandoned school called Federal College, Federal Government College, which is in Ekiti. And he said he recognized an inscription, and he advised the security services to go in there and to investigate and see whether they could find any evidence.
Okay.
But he said during the time in his captivity, he cut up a piece of carpet and used it as a rosary to pray for the country and for his
that's one of the things I was going to say, that he had, reading the article, he had his faith, and it looks as though his faith was really what brought him through this. Let's go on to the China Daily now. Obama talking nature, I hear.
Yes, he's about to meet Mr. Attenborough, who is 89. And he's done documentaries for over 60 years, and he's said to be the godfather of the Natural History Channel.
So for those watching abroad, David Attenborough then works for the BBC. He's been broadcasting naturalist documentaries on the BBC for years and years, certainly as long as I've been alive, which is years and years and years.
Yeah, and apparently, look at it, President Obama is trying to use the media, his 1.5 years left in office. He's trying to use all sorts of avenues to get his message across, you see. And I think this is also a way of, you know, maybe after his presidency, he might maybe become a television presenter or service, so nobody knows. But he's trying hard to get into that area.
He is, isn't he? I mean, this is it. I mean, all presidents in their final term, when they're coming to the end of their final term, they really change tack, don't they?
Yes.
They're now suddenly thinking about legacy, how they're going to be remembered. But he's really going for that, isn't he?
Yes, because he's a president who, the first African-American president, and he wants to leave a lasting legacy, which I think he has in certain areas, you know, which for us as individuals, look at it and we say, this is what Obama did as president, and we look up to it and aspire to become like that.
But he's also really playing to his strengths, I think, because one of the whatever you believe about him and whatever you believe, whatever your politics are, he's a great orator.
Yes.
Nobody can doubt how good an orator he is. And you see it, you know, he's been interviewed by the comedian Mark Maron last week for a viral podcast. He's been doing loads of comedy shows, loads of different interviews. You know, he's a natural comedian, actually, isn't he?
That was during the campaign in 2008. That was the big difference between him and John McCain, is that he was natural and he could appeal to people, and he was more or less like a rock star. So that qualities he has as an individual is pushing him ahead, and hopefully I think his last 16 to 18 months would be a success based upon his strengths he has.
I mean, certainly more than any president I can remember, possibly with the exception of Ronald Reagan. He's a real personality, isn't he?
Yes.
His personality is really at the forefront.
And very savvy, and more of like a people's man, where he could get onto a stage and on the spur of the moment, be able to, you know, attract people to himself and to make a very, you know, passionate speech, which is one of his strengths, which, as an individual, after he leaves office, he could go into any other area and be a success. I believe strongly.
Absolutely. Another story from the China Daily that you wanted to bring to our attention about Tibet. Tell us about that.
The Li Dake, he's the deputy head of the People's Autonomous, so-called autonomous Tibet's People's Congress, which is like a parliament, and he's basically fallen foul of the law. So he's been accused of serious violations of discipline and law. And well known, in China, if such charges have been put against you, you wouldn't go scot-free. And looking at it, you see the Chinese system is where now President Xi is trying to fight against corruption. And the number of high officials, former political bureau members, have been jailed for corruption. And I believe that in China now there's a new phase towards their politics. If we look at it, there is a need to wipe the slate clean of that perception of them being corrupt and abusing of power. And I believe that maybe if it's not a witch hunt, then I think it's in the right direction that they clear their politics and go clean.
I mean, especially in Tibet, because the world spotlight is always going to be on Tibet, isn't it?
Yes, because first and foremost, I mean, the Chinese are said to be the invaders of Tibet, and therefore, basically, they are illegitimate rulers of that area, you see. So, if they are able to give a good image for future political references, that would be very important.
Yeah, I mean, the Dalai Lama is appearing at Glastonbury this weekend, the festival in Britain, and the Chinese are not very happy about it at all, because they're worried that he's going to be, again, putting the focus onto Tibet at a time when they really don't want to, and especially if they've got corruption at the very top of the government in Tibet. It's the last thing they want, isn't it?
But they've tried so hard to suppress the Dalai Lama, but he's always ahead of them. So if I were the Chinese, I'd rather negotiate with him than to rather put him down, because he's a voice of reason.
OK, let's go on to the Catamarini. I'm going to skip one for time here. We might come back to the Bangkok Post if we can. But the Catamarini, which is Greece's leading paper, the Holy Synod is joining in this rallying cry to end the Greek crisis, isn't it?
Yeah, because you see the crisis in Greece it's serious. And, at this time when people don't have hope in the political system, they turn to faith. And this is what is happening here, because the Greek system is basically going to crumble if they don't sort the economic crisis out. And it goes to the heart of the practices and the beliefs of the Greeks, having an easy life, retiring at the age of 55, paying less taxes, but still living off the state, that sort of life, which will have to change if they want to come out of debt. And, in such times when people are losing their homes, many people are even going to food banks, they need faith to see them through this. And this is what the Holy See is talking about, that there needs to be a compromise between the Greek government and the EU.
Yeah, and another story on the same page from the Catamarini. One way of maybe getting some money is to tap the Germans up for 9 billion euros.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Yeah, this goes back as 1932, when just in the First World War, when Germany was supposed to be reparations to Greece. But in 1932, when the Great Depression happened, there was an agreement in Lausanne between Britain and France saying that the reparations should stop. They should stop paying the reparations because France and Germany were under serious economic crisis. But I think now, when the amount was recalculated, it amounts to 9 billion. So I think the Germans should hand over the 9 billion so they could help the Greeks solve the economic crisis. Whether they'll give them the money, that's another question for another day. So that's it.
You've got to hand it to Tsipras. He is trying everything, isn't he? He's certainly got imagination.
He came in on the wave of anti-austerity. Now that they are being put under and they're put under the cosh, he has to find all sorts of means to make money. Because you see, first and foremost, if he doesn't solve this problem and the country goes further into crisis, he doesn't have a legacy, and his whole political brand will go under. So it's a dogfight, and that is why they're going for a referendum next month to see whether the Greek people would accept the proposals put across. Hopefully, if they do accept it, then he would have some political capital to work upon in the future.
And finding the Germans for World War I might well be the answer.
Who knows?
We'll have to wait and see. Joseph Danquah, as ever, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you.